Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello learners, welcome back. In this lecture 2 of Unit 4 of Open Economy, our topic of today's lecture is saving and investment in a small open economy. Let us see what we are going to discuss today. We will be developing a saving investment model for a small open economy in this lecture. Thereafter, we will be understanding that how do the different government policy have an impact on this economy. Before starting the lecture, let me just give you a quick recap of what we had done in the last lecture. In the last lecture, we had talked about the difference between a closed economy and an open economy, wherein we had said an open economy is the one where there are certain transactions are taking place with this economy and the rest of the world. Whereas in a closed economy, no such interaction takes place between this economy and the rest of the world. Also, we had discussed the difference between a small and a large open economy. We had said that small economy is the one which is so small that it cannot have an impact on the rate of interest in the world financial market. So whatever the rate of interest is decided in the world financial market, that rate of interest is taken by the small open economy. Also, we had talked about the perfect mobility of capital, which meant that there is no restriction of the flow of capital either from this economy or to this economy. So that's how we had differentiated between a small and a large open economy. Then we had talked about the accounting identities. We had seen that how do the trade balance given by net exports becomes equal to net capital outflow. And how did we define that in net capital outflow? We had said it is the difference between saving and investments. So that's where we had stopped in the last lecture. Moving forward from the same point, today we will be dealing further into the small open economy, and then we will be understanding that how the fiscal policy of not only in this economy but of the large economy also has an impact on the savings, investment and the net exports of the small open economy. So let us move forward with today's lecture. As we've just said, the first thing that we will do today is we will be talking about the saving and investment in this small open economy that will be trying to understand various variables. As I just told you that in the last lecture we had derived this entity from the GDP equation which was given as Y is equal to C plus I plus G plus net exports. From that we had derived this equation which said that the net exports of any economy is equal to the savings minus the investments. This particular identity, we had said that it gives a relationship between the goods market and the capital market. Why? Because net exports, that is exports and imports of goods and services will take place in the world goods market, whereas the capital flows or the financial transactions will take place in the capital market. And we had also summarized in the last lecture that how both these markets are talking about a similar thing but in a different manner. That is, we had said they are the two sides of the same coin. A change in savings and investment gap will bring a change somewhere in the net exports as well. So, what we also discussed in the last lecture was that unlike in a closed economy, in an open economy, it is not necessary that savings and investment are always equal. When we had talked about in Unit 1, the circular flow of income, there we had said that saving is a leakage and investment is an injection. And in a closed economy, what happens is that whatever amount is saved, it gets invested by the firms. So if such a situation occurs, then automatically a savings will become equal to investment and we saw an equilibrium in the economy. But since here we are not talking about a closed economy, here we are talking about an open economy. That is, this economy is having interactions with the rest of the world and investments are flowing in, savings are flowing in, savings are flowing out of the economy. So it is not necessary that in such an economy, the savings and investment are always equal. It may so happen that savings may be greater than investments or investment may be more than savings. So this mismatch between savings and investment takes place in an open economy. Why? How does this happen? Is a very natural question which arises in your mind. We are saying, for example, if savings are not equal to investment, or let us take an example, if savings are greater than investments, what will happen is, now the savers of this particular economy have a choice not to limit themselves to only this particular economy, but they have an option to save in the other parts of the world as well by investing in their financial assets. So in such a case, the residents of this particular economy will take this excess saving out of this economy to the other economies of the world. So they will become lenders to the world. Or in other case, it can happen that investment requirement was more than what was actually saved here. So how will the firms are getting that extra investment? The firms are getting those extra investment by borrowings from other countries. So saving and investment inequality necessarily means that either these economies acting as a lender to the world or it may be acting as a borrower from the world. But because we have already derived this particular identity, which says that if your saving and investments are flowing or if they are unequal, it has an impact on the net exports. If the savings, let us say, are more than the investments, means this S is greater than I, so this particular net capital outflow will be positive. A positive net capital flow outflow would mean that your net exports will be positive or this particular country is having a trade surplus. On the other hand, if the economy is borrowing from other countries, that is their investments are more and savings are less, they are borrowing from the other countries of the world, then the net exports would be negative or we will see a trade deficit. This we have already done in detail in the previous lecture, but because it is going to be very relevant for us in this lecture when we will be discussing how the rate of interest in this economy changes because of the world market, or if certain policies change, how does it change? Therefore, I am again repeating it for you that net exports is equal to saving minus investments, and in an open closed economy, it is not necessary that your savings will always become equal to investments. And if they do not, then the economy may be having a trade surplus or it may be having a trade deficit. Further, we had already talked about that in a small open economy, it is so small that it is unable to make a negligible impact in the total world financial market. Therefore, the rate of interest in the small economy, let us say it is given by small r, it becomes equal to the world rate of interest given by r star. Why? Because this economy is so small that on its own it cannot change the world's market interest rate. So whatever the large economies of the world, whatever the rate of interest is prevalent in the large economies of the world, this small economy will take it as the rate of interest. So due to the assumption of one that the small economy is making a negligible impact in the world financial market, and because there is a perfect mobility of capital, we see that the rate of interest in the small economy, which we have given by small r, becomes equal to the world rate of interest. So this particular assumption takes place because of the previous simplifying assumptions which we had already discussed. So please remember, learners, that whenever we are talking about the small open economy, we will say that the rate of interest in small open economy is dependent, or it becomes equal to the world market rate of interest. And if it is in equilibrium, this R star will be equal to R. Now let us understand that what happens if this small economy's rate of interest is different from the world's rate of interest. To make you understand this, let us have a look at this particular graph. No, before that, let us see these assumptions, then we'll move to the graph. When we are developing this model, let us see what are the assumptions. The first assumption that we are taking is that in such an economy, the production function, let us say Y is the total output produced, it is a function of labor and capital. K represents the capital and L represents the labor. So the total output in the economy is dependent on how much capital and how much labor is available, and it is the amount of labor and capital is given to us, means it will remain constant. That is, it is showing L bar and K bar is constant. Since the amount of input that we are going to use to produce this Y is constant, this output is also given to us, or it is constant. So the first assumption we are making to develop this model is that your output is a function of capital and labor, and it is given to us, or it is constant. Then we talk about the consumption function. We already have seen that consumption is what? Consumption is dependent on income, or it is dependent on disposable income, to be very, very specific. What is disposable income? Disposable income is the total income minus the taxes that a person pays. So our consumption is a function, or it is dependent on the disposable income. Thereafter, we also have an investment function. Investment is dependent on the rate of interest. Means, we have already discussed it earlier also when we talked about the investment function. Investment is a function of the rate of interest, means that how much investment will be made is to a certain extent depending on the rate of interest in the economy. And learners, you might be remembering, we had said that the investment and the rate of interest are inversely related to each other. Meaning that when the rate of interest is rising, investment will fall, and vice versa. So investment is a function of the rate of interest, and they are inversely related to each other. Then there are certain exogenous policy variables which we have assumed. G is the government expenditure. We are saying it is G bar, means this is constant. Similarly, tax is equal to T bar. Okay, so these are out of this, if you remember, we have already discussed all these types of functions in our previous lecture, particularly when we were talking about the circular flow of income as well as the aggregate demand in the economy. So taking these assumptions and knowing that in a small open economy, the rate of interest is dependent on the world market rate of interest, or this economy's rate of interest becomes equal to the world's market rate of interest. Let us move further. As I just told you that in order to explain this, we will be understanding this graph. Please have a close look at this graph. This graph is giving us two types of variables which we will be discussing in this model. S represents the savings in the economy and I is representing the investment in the economy. Rate of interest we are taking on the y-axis and we are measuring saving and investments on the x-axis. If you see, this investment curve is downward sloping as we have just said. Why is it downward sloping? Because we are taking a relationship between the real rate of interest and the investment. As you can see, we are saying investment is dependent on R. If this rate of interest is more, investment demand will be less. If rate of interest is less, investment demand would be more. So our investment function is downward sloping. Going to the other variable that we are discussing is saving. What is saving? We have already discussed about national savings in the previous lecture. That is whatever output produced minus the consumption which the households are going to make minus the government expenditure will give us the national savings. So Y minus C minus G, which we had derived in the previous lecture, will give us the national savings. So the private savings plus the government savings give us the national savings. And this is something which is already given to us. We have assumed it for simplicity as we have seen in the previous slide, that we are saying that Y is constant with a given number of labor and capital. So when your Y becomes constant, we are assuming that the savings will also be constant. Therefore, you see saving to be a vertical straight line. Okay. Now, let us understand that how the world market rate of interest and the small economy's rate of interest relate to each other, and then how does it lead to a trade disequilibrium in terms of a trade surplus or a trade deficit. Now, if you see this graph, we are seeing two types of rate of interest. One is R and one is R star. I have just explained it to you. What is R? R we are denoting as the rate of interest in the small open economy. So this small r is representing the rate of interest of the small open economy. Whereas R star represents the rate of interest in the large economies of the world. So if you see this graph, the point where your S is meeting I, let us say, is at E, where savings is equal to investments. Savings are equal to investments. That is, there is an equilibrium between saving and investment. And this is happening at a point where the market interest rates of the world economy, R star, is equal to the domestic rate of interest, R. So let us assume your economy right now is at the point of equilibrium where already R is equal to R star, because there is not going to be a difference between the rate of interest in a small open economy and a large world market, because small open economy is going to take the rate of interest from the market. So at this point of equilibrium, saving is equal to investment, and going by the identity, that is S minus I is equal to NX, your net exports will be 0. Or in other words, here there is a balanced trade in the economy. Whatever is being exported, it is equal to the amount of imports. Therefore, exports minus imports are also equal to 0 and savings are equal to investment. Now let us say R star, this world market rate increases from R star to R1 star. Okay, world market rate increases from R star to R1 star. What is happening here? Now we know that savings are going to remain the same. We have just assumed. When the rate of interest rises, what will happen to investment? Investment is going to decline because interest rate has increased. So savings at this point of R1 star, your savings are greater than the investments. That is, at a higher rate of interest, we see lesser investment taking place in this particular small economy. but savings are more. So where are these savings going? These savings are going for a purpose of for the use of the foreigners who are in need of these funds. So the citizens of this economy are lending this out to the rest of the world, or they are saving in other financial instruments in the foreign markets. So again we see that in such a situation where R1 is more than the equilibrium rate of interest at E, savings are greater than investments, and also we will see that net exports are greater than zero, or there is going to be a trade surplus in such a situation. On the other hand, if we see that R star decreases from R star to R2 star, what will happen? With the decline in the rate of interest, the investment demand is going to increase. Investments would be more, but savings would be less than. So savings are less than investment at any level of rate of interest below the equilibrium point. So savings are less than the investments. So then where are these investments coming from? This means that people, the firms of this particular small open economy are borrowing from the rest of the world. They are getting money from the rest of the world because the rate of interest in the rest of the world is lesser. So they are borrowing at a lower rate of interest. So when the savings are less than investments, as you can see, at that point your net exports will be less than zero, or there will be a trade deficit. So what we have seen is that the saving and investment changes are leading to a change in the trade balance of this small open economy. Now, a very natural question arises is that we can understand that if the rate of interest is increasing or decreasing, people are either reducing their investment demand, hence the investment is lowered, and these people, because they are going to get a higher rate of interest in the foreign economies, they will take away this money and invest in the rest of the world. So that is very logical that a change in rate of interest is bringing a change in the transactions in the financial market. But why does it have an impact on the net exports is a question which arises. And for that, learners, we will be explaining that in your next lecture when we will be talking about the exchange rates. There all these questions will be answered. But right now we are concentrating on the financial market and understanding that how the changes in the rate of interest have an impact on the trade balance. Now again moving further, till now we have understood that how the world market's rate of interest is leading for this economy having greater savings than investment or lesser savings than investments, and eventually leading to your either a trade deficit or a trade surplus. Now let us understand that how various policies can have an impact on the trade balance of a small open economy. We will be talking about three situations. We will be doing a small simulation using three situations. One, we will be talking about fiscal policy at home. That is, in the home economy, the fiscal policy changes are there. Second, we will be talking about the impact or the influence of the fiscal policy abroad. That is not in this country, but in another country, in a large open economy, there is a change in the fiscal policy. How does it influence the trade balance of the small open economy? We will be seeing next. And last, we will be seeing that what happens if there is an increase in the investment demand. So these three things we will be seeing with help of a graph, and it will be very interesting for you people to see that how a change in one policy in a small open economy has an impact on its trade balance, savings and investment, and not only its own policy, but the policies of the rest of the world also have, or the big economies also have on the small open economies. Before moving further, a very famous quote has just struck my mind. It is said that when US sneezes, the world catches cold. That is, there is a lot of US is supposed to be one of the largest open economy of the world. Its dollar as a currency is accepted everywhere in the world, and many, the foreign exchange reserves are also maintained in dollars. So it is said that if something goes wrong in the US economy, that is, when US sneezes, the whole world catches cold. That is, a small change or small disruption or small shock in the US economy has an impact on the rest of the economies which are dependent on this particular large economy. As we see, when in 2008 we saw that subprime crisis, world financial crisis we talked about, it originated in USA. And then we saw the impact of that particular crisis on rest of the world, on India, on Europe and rest of the countries. So that is what I wanted to put across, that fiscal policies of not only the small countries will have an impact on its trade balance or on its saving and investment, or what we call as net capital outflow, but these policies from abroad, what is happening there, what is happening in the large economies also will influence the trade balance of this small country. And thereafter we will be moving to the change in the investment demand, how it brings a change in your trade balance. But again, please remember, all this we are doing is with respect to the small open economy. We have not touched upon the large open economy. We are taking a case of the small open economy. So let us assume, let us take the first case where we have said we are talking about how does a fiscal policy at home changes the trade balance of that economy. Let us take the case of an expansionary fiscal policy. After understanding this, I would urge you people to do a similar kind of activity for a contractionary fiscal policy at home as well, so that you understand that how this actually happens. So we all know what is a fiscal policy. Any change in the government policy with respect to its spending or with respect to taxes is called as a fiscal policy. Expansionary fiscal policy would mean that the government has decided to increase its government expenditure or reduce its taxes. So that leads to an expansion in the economy, leading to an increase in the aggregate demand. All of it we have already done. So we are saying that in an expansionary fiscal policy, the government of the small economy has increased its spending. G has increased, capital G has increased. We have already assumed that the savings are fixed. If you remember, you can go back to that lecture again and see this lecture only, just rewind it later on and see that savings are fixed because all the components, its components are assumed to be constant. We have held your Y as constant. And investments are inversely related to the rate of interest. We have seen the downward sloping investment curve. The increase in this government expenditure G will reduce the national savings. Why? Because we have just said now also and in the previous lecture also that saving is equal to Y minus C minus G. What is Y? The aggregate output or income. From this we are reducing the value of your consumption expenditure and the government expenditure. What you get is called as national saving. We are saying that the government is going in for an expansionary fiscal policy. This means that this G is going to increase. When the G increases, the government expenditure increases, What will be the impact on savings, national savings? National savings will reduce. Because this G amount will increase, national savings will reduce. Please keep in mind this identity. National saving is equal to output minus C, that is consumption expenditure of the households, minus the government expenditure. If G is increasing, national savings will decrease. Why G is increasing? Because we are taking a case of an expansionary fiscal policy at home in the small economy. Now, we are saying that this economy is so small that it cannot change the world's rate of interest. If you want to relate it, in the previous unit's lecture that we had done when we had talked about the IS curve and LM model, ISLM model which we said, where we had said that a change in expansionary fiscal policy leads to an increase in the rate of interest in the closed economy. But that is not the case in what we are discussing in this today. We are saying that it's a small economy which cannot have an impact on the real rate of interest of the world. So even if the government follows an expansionary fiscal policy, which in a closed economy will lead to an increase in the rate of interest, in such a case, it will have no meaning, because if the world's rate of interest is less than my home economy's rate of interest, I will not borrow from home economy. I will borrow from the rest of the world, from the rest of wherever the rate of interest is less, because there is free capital mobility. So if I can borrow from other foreign countries at a lower rate of interest, automatically the rate of interest my home economy will come down to the same level, or it will not have any relevance. And by expansionary fiscal policy, this small economy cannot change the real rate of interest of the world market. So, even if we are talking about a decrease in national saving, by having an expansionary policy, the rate of interest in this economy will not be impacted, because this particular home economy, which is a small one, is taking the rate of interest from the world market. Therefore, with no change in the rate of interest, investments will remain the same. But savings would be less than investment, because savings have reduced, we have just seen. So where will this money come from? This money will come from borrowings from abroad. Savings have reduced because there is expansionary fiscal policy. National savings reduced because government expenditure increased. But investment is remaining unchanged. There is no change in investment, even though savings have reduced. So where is this excess money coming from? This money will come from as a borrowing from abroad. When the funds are being borrowed, means going back to the identity Mx is equal to S minus I, the fall in saving in this means that there will be a fall in net expose, because S is reducing, because savings are falling. What will happen to this balance? This trade balance will go, it will reduce. Your trade balance will see a pressure on it. Hence, there will be a trade deficit shown as per this equation. So, a fall in saving, which happens because the economy has, when a fall in savings, whatever has happened because of expansionary fiscal policy, will lead to a trade deficit. Now, whatever we have done now, let us see it in form of a graph, and I'm sure you will be able to understand it better. We are again seeing whatever we have discussed now, we are taking it in form of a graph. Rate of interest on the y-axis, saving and investments on the x-axis. There is a graph on this panel you can see. S1 represents your saving, which is constant as of now. Investment is a downward sloping curve, which is dependent on the rate of interest. If we are talking about an expansionary fiscal policy, learners, we are saying let us say the government expenditure increases, or it can be the taxes decrease. Because of that, the national savings decrease. Right now, you are at a point where there is an equilibrium. S is equal to I, and the rate of interest is of the world market R1 star. We are saying there is an expansionary fiscal policy, because of which savings will reduce. Okay. Right now you are at a balance, as you can see in this green box, that you are at point A. So economy begins with a balanced trade, that is S is equal to I, net exports is equal to 0. Whatever you are exporting is equal to import. So you are in a balanced trade right now. There is an expansionary fiscal policy, which can be by an increase in the government expenditure G, or it can be due to a decrease in the taxes. Okay, taxes will change the consumption, that will change the disposable income, right? Taxes will change the disposable income, it will change the consumption. More consumption will be there, national savings will reduce. This would lead, this increase in G or decrease in T will shift your S1. We have said it will decrease, means your S1 will shift inside to S2. So the new pink line of S2 you see is showing that it is an expansionary fiscal policy at home, because of which your savings has decreased from S1 to S2. But because a small open economy cannot change the rate of interest, the rate of interest will remain at R1 star only. It will not increase, it will remain at R1 star. So you will be at B, your investment will still remain the same even though the savings have reduced. Understand this? What we have said is that when there is an let us say we are talking about a balanced economy where S1 is equal to I at the point A, so there is an equilibrium in the economy and there is a balanced trade. Why? We are going by the equation Nx is equal to S minus I. When S is equal to I means Nx is equal to 0, or your net exports are balanced. So that's a balanced trade situation. Now the government of this particular small economy decides to have an expansionary policy by way of increasing the government expenditure or by way of decreasing taxes. Because of this, our saving curve will shift inside, showing a decline in the national savings. A decline in the national savings does not here mean that your investments will also decline. Because there will be no change in the rate of interest, the rate of interest will remain same or constant at R1 star, which is the rate of interest of the world economy. So what happens in this economy is that the investments remain same at I1, even though savings reduce from S1 to S2. Therefore, this means that there is a gap of Nx between these two lines, that is S2, S1, there is a gap of investment, which we have said as net exports. So because of a fall in savings, investment remaining the same, S is less than I means there will be a trade deficit. So by way of an expansionary fiscal policy, an economy which was initially at a balanced trade has now entered a phase where it is facing a trade deficit. So by having an expansionary policy, I again repeat, the impact on the economy has been such that from a balanced state of trade where Nx was equal to 0, where S was equal to I, by having an expansion by way of increasing government expenditure or taxes, we have seen that now it is seeing a trade deficit, or the net exports have become less than 0. Why? Because investments are more than what is being saved, because this country is borrowing in order to take care of their investments. So that was the impact of expansionary fiscal policy at home. Now let us understand that what happens if an expansionary fiscal policy is being taken by another large economy. The small economy is not changing anything. There is a change in the fiscal policy of those countries which form a large part of the world. So if these countries decide to increase their government purchases or reduce their taxes by way of an expansionary fiscal policy, what will happen is that it will reduce the savings of the world. As we have just seen, something which happens in a domestic economy, a similar thing will happen in the foreign economies also. So when these large economies decide that we will have an expansionary fiscal policy, it will reduce the funds which are available, or the world savings will reduce. A reduction in the world savings automatically means that availability of funds is less, hence the rate of interest will rise. So a decrease in world saving causes the world's rate of interest to rise. This in turn, now see what we have said is, this will have an impact on the small open economy. Why? Because this small open economy is taking the rate of interest, or its rate of interest is dependent or determined by the world interest rate. So when due to a fiscal policy abroad, the world savings reduced, leading to a rise in the interest rate of the world, this would mean that in this economy, the investments would reduce. So a change in the world interest rate has brought a change in the investment in this domestic small economy, because at high rate of interest, investments are less. What happens after this? Savings are not changing. It is only the investment which is changing. Investment has reduced. Saving is remaining the same. Means savings are now more than the investments. So then, with the fall in I, S remaining the same, your NX will change. Your net exports will increase. So you again see a change in the trade balance of a small open economy, even though its policy did not change. Policy of the large open economy changed, which brought a change in their net exports. Therefore, we say a fiscal expansion abroad, which increased the world rate of interest, leads to a trade surplus in the small open economy. Why a trade surplus? Because with a fiscal expansion, your savings reduced in the world, rate of interest increased. When rate of interest increased, the investment reduced, and this gap S minus I reduced. So you saw a trade surplus. So if an economy was in a situation of trade balance, because of the expansionary fiscal policy abroad, this small open economy will now see a trade surplus. This we will see now with the help of a graph. Again, we are taking this S and I. S is your saving in this small open economy. Downward sloping I blue curve line that you see, IR is the investment. Equilibrium rate of interest, because right now the economy is in equilibrium, NX is equal to 0. The rate of interest is R1 star. Now, because there is an expansionary fiscal policy abroad, the world's rate of interest increases from R1 to R2 star. You see this line? Red line, this R1 was the initial rate of interest. With an expansion in the world economy fiscal policy, we see the rate of interest rising from R1 to R2 star. What will happen because of that? Because now this small economy's rate of interest will also increase. We have just seen it, that the small open economy's rate of interest is equal to what it is in the world market. So because of the increase in the rate of interest from R1 star to R2 star, we see investment declining. We see investment declining. Yes, from IR1 star to IR2 star. right? This, in other words, means that there is a gap of your trade balance. Earlier, NX was 0, but now you see NX greater than 0. So what is the result of this expansionary fiscal policy abroad? It has reduced investments and it has led to the trade surplus for the small open economy. All this we are assuming a case where the economy is in a state of a trade balance. Okay. Now the third case, an increase in investment demand. Now let us say that there is a change in the tax law, or the credit given by the government increases. The government says, okay, you can, if you take loans, we will give you some tax credit, we'll give you some tax incentives. So certain laws are there because of which the firms feel that it is better to invest more now. So by change of a government policy, the investment demand increases. An increase in investment demand, let us say, will shift the investment curve outwards or to the right. So at given rate of interest, investment is now higher because rate of interest has not changed. It is only that we have shifted investment curve from one point to another point. So at the given rate of interest is remaining the same, investment demand has now increased. Savings are also unchanged, but increased investment is needed because investment demand has increased. Where will this investment come from? This increased investment will come from by borrowing from abroad. So this savings remaining the same, an increase in investment would mean the country is going to borrow from abroad. So again going back to your equation, Nx is equal to S minus I. I has increased now. This would mean your NX will decrease or there will be a trade deficit. So if you are starting with a balanced trade, an increase in investment demand due to an outward shift of the investment schedule will cause a trade deficit. I will again repeat, what we have said is that if due to certain government policies, investment demand in the country increases, this will push your investment demand curve to the right or it will push it outside. That is, at the same rate of interest, without any change in the rate of interest, we will be seeing higher investments. Investments have increased, savings have not. So the demand for investment is more than what is available from the savings. So what will happen in this small economy? The firms in this small economy will borrow their investment needs from outside. They will borrow money from outside to cater to their investment needs. So investment will be taken as borrowing from abroad. So if this I increases, going by the same equation which we have been using, right, identity, that is Nx is equal to S minus I. When I increases, saving remaining the same, net exports or the trade will see a deficit. So we are saying that starting from a balanced trade, an outward shift in the investment schedule causes a trade deficit. Now before moving forward, learners, why don't you pick up your paper and pen and we'll do this small exercise. I am giving you this graph of equality between saving and investment. You have to solve this. Using this model, determine the impact of an increase in investment demand on net exports, savings and investment and net capital outflow. What is net capital outflow? Saving minus investment. We have just discussed this verbally. Try to make it and then we will do it again. We are saying that if this is a panel which is showing you, this model is giving you savings which are given, investment which is downward sloping with respect to rate of interest. The economy right now is at a trade balance or saving is equal to investment. Rate of interest is R star. What will be the impact of an increase in the investment demand on net exports, savings, investment and net capital outflow is what you have to make in this diagrams. So, take your time, do it. Let me explain it to you what happens. This is the situation which we have given to you. There is an increase in investment demand, means your investment curve will shift outside from IR1 to IR2. Do you see this investment curve shifting from this blue line to green line? Same rate of interest but more investment. So you see investment increasing from I1 to I2 because of government policy. There is an increase in the demand of investment. So you see investment curve shifting from IR1 to IR2. Savings are remaining same. There is no change in savings. S remains the same. But investment is more. So I is more than S. This would mean that your net exports what will happen? It will lead to a deficit. So, what is the result? We wanted to see the impact. What are the answers for the question? There will be a change in I. There will be a positive change in I because I has increased. So, change in I is greater than 0 means investment has increased. What has happened to savings? There is no change in savings. Savings are the same. Net capital outflows, that is saving minus investment, and net exports, that is exports minus imports, will fall by the amount of the change in investment. That is, you will see the change in net exports, it will also fall, there will be a trade deficit, as well as you will see that your S minus I, which is the net capital outflow, it will also change. It will fall by the amount of investment. So it is not only the expansionary fiscal policy or the fiscal policy which will bring a change in SI and net exports. It is also the policy of the government to change the investment, which can also lead to a change in SI and net capital outflow along with net exports. Whatever learners we have done today, whatever graphs which we have made in all the three models with respect to fiscal policy at home, with respect to fiscal policy abroad, or with respect to investment demand, everywhere in every graph, we have taken a situation where the economy was in a trade balance, that is S was equal to I. What you can do is, which will help you to sharpen your skills and to understand this concept better, is by doing this activity. Repeat the impact of all these three policies. What three policies? Fiscal policy at home, fiscal policy abroad, and investment demand. We have talked about expansionary fiscal policy at home, we have talked about expansionary fiscal policy abroad, and we have talked about increase in investment demand. Repeat the impact of all the three policies and for each case see the results. When you see net exports less than 0, or in a situation of equilibrium when net exports is greater than 0. That is, I am saying that draw the graph such that the saving is not equal to investment or NX is not equal to 0. Make graph such a way that it shows your net exports is less than 0. Make those three situations when net exports is less than 0. If expansionary fiscal policy takes place, then what happens? Then see if net exports are greater than 0 and you take all the three policy, and then what happens. So your initial equilibrium point or the starting point should be when your net exports is less than 0, and in second case when net exports are greater than 0. Why I am telling you this is because otherwise you will not be able to visualize as to what happens when world rate interest changes, or when the home economy saving decreases, or when the investment decreases. Likewise, you can also repeat a similar exercise by not taking an expansionary fiscal policy but a contractionary fiscal policy in home and abroad, or not an increase in investment demand but a decrease in investment demand. So this will help you to write your own answers, understand all this very well. Therefore, I am giving you this activity. And now let us summarize whatever we have done. We have said that in a small economy, policies at home and abroad bring a change in trade balance. This should be home, HOE, HONE it should be. Bring a change in the trade balance NX. An expansionary fiscal policy at home reduces national saving and increases trade deficit. An increase in the world interest rate due to fiscal expansion abroad also leads to a trade surplus. So an expansionary fiscal policy abroad is leading you to a trade surplus in the home economy. An expansionary fiscal policy at home but is leading to a trade deficit. And if we are talking about, see, all this we have talked with respect to balance trade, and an investment increase will cause a trade deficit. This all will only be clear to you learners if you draw all these curves on your own and understand. So I hope you will carry out this activity till we meet further for the next lecture. Thank you very much.